Hi, I'm Bruce with Just Lucky Artworks and creator of Dad's Castle and Silly Quill greeting cards. I do most of my greeting card work these days using Blender grease pencil. But when recreating a cartoon character with their flat oval eyes in 3D, eyelids can be a real challenge. So today, I'm going to share with you a way to create nice geometry node based eyelids that conform to that flat oval shape just beautifully without the hassles of a lattice or shape keys. And best of all, it's real easy and very simple geometry nodes. So let's get started. Okay, I've opened a new Blender file, and the first thing we'll do is drag the mouse and select all those default items and press delete so we can start with a clean scene. Let's hit Shift A and add a mesh of a UV sphere. Zoom in on that, and this will be our eyeball. So let's go ahead and name him about toon underscore eyeball. Alright, now in this eyeball, we want this area where all these edges meet to be the pupil, or the center of the eye. But we want it facing this way. So we need to rotate it along the x-axis. So let's hit front view by going number 1 on the numpad. Scoot this over a little bit, and then we'll rotate that along the x-axis by pressing R, then X for the x-axis, and then 90. Enter. So now you can see our pupil is facing forward. Let's apply a texture to this so we have an eyeball. So we'll go ahead and let's go to the texture preview mode, or material preview mode, and now it's just all white. So let's go ahead and bring in some textures. Go to File, Append. Now I have a couple of procedural eyes here. They're simple toon eyes we can use. Let's append that. And then come over to our material property tabs. Touch that. And click on the down. And let's click simple toon eye. Now I'll have these available as part of the file to download in the link below. Now you can see our pupil is kind of aiming downward the wrong way. Now we can fix this two ways. We can fix it by going into the shader itself and adjusting a few things maybe, but it'll be far easier just to apply our rotation, because see our rotation up there is still saying it's 90 degrees. So let's select the object, then hit Control A and apply rotation. So now our pupil's facing forward, and we got all zeros over there into the rotation. So we're looking good. Let's go back to the solid view. Now let's create our eyelid. And it's going to be based on the eyeball. So let's hit Shift D to duplicate, right click so it doesn't move anywhere. We want the exact same spot for the center. And let's rename this over here to, how about lid underscore top. Okay. Now it doesn't really matter what we name it there, because it's going to be merged at the end of the day into the eyeball, and those names will go away, but we do want to keep our work straight so we know what we're doing and keep track of things. Alright, now what we do want to do with this eyelid is we want to see these ridges here. We want to be able to make those the ridges of the eyelid so we can move them up and down, but they're facing to the right, they're facing the wrong way, so we need to rotate this also around that z-axis so they face forward. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll hit R for rotate, Z for the axis, 90, enter to face forward. Now you can see it's interfering with the eyeball, which we don't want. But we do want to make this a little bit bigger, just to scale it up just a tad so it doesn't interfere, but it's still pretty much the same size. So we'll go over and just click and drag so we can change them all at the same time. And we'll go 1.02, just a couple hundredths bigger, and that'll be just enough to clear that eyeball. And if you're not sure where this menu is, it's in the item tab up there on the side. And if you don't see this menu at all, you can press N to make it appear and reappear. So now we have our eyeball. So let's go ahead and go to edit mode. Actually, before we go to edit mode, we're going to also, we need to apply its rotation as well. So let's hit Control A and apply rotation. So now that's applied. And we're going to need to do the same thing with the lower lid. So before we do any editing, let's go ahead and hit Shift D to make another one. Right click so it doesn't go anywhere. And let's call this one lid dot bottom. Okay? So let's go ahead and hide that one. And we'll hide the eyeball as well and select the lid top. So we're just working with the lid top. Now let's go to edit mode and hit the little X-ray button up there. I think you can also use Control Z for that. Not sure, but it interferes with my NVIDIA menu, so I'll just use the button at the top until I sort that out. But the reason we do that is so we can grab vertices on both sides, not just the ones visible to us. And we're going to get as close to that X-axis as we can, drag, and then press delete and remove those vertices. So now we have the upper eyelid shell. Now let's go over to this vertex tab and let's add a new vertex group, and let's name this one, how about lid dot top. Then we come over to the left, press A to select all the vertices, and then back over to our vertex group menu, and press assign. That way we'll have all of these vertices assigned as lid top group, and that'll be important later on. Okay, we can go back to object mode. We can remove our X-ray vision there. Now we need to make this puppy move. We want to rotate it. So let's go to a side view here. Now the way we're going to do this is using a little bit of vector math, but it's going to be real easy, I promise. Now if you recall what a vector is, or don't recall what a vector is, maybe your math teacher in high school implored you to remember what a vector was, we can define the location of any point by just knowing the magnitude, or i.e. the length of a line, and its angle. So by that we can describe where that vertex is. So we can pick out all the vertices of this upper eyelid. We can define that by a whole series of vectors. Okay? If we can point a vector to every single vertex of that shell, we'll know where the shell is. And then all we need to do is just rotate those vertices. So let's give that a go. And we're going to use geometry nodes to do it. So let me grab the bottom here and bring it up. And we'll bring this down just a little bit and over. Now this is typically in the timeline mode when a new file, but just click on the 3D viewport button and we'll come down to geometry node editor. And then first thing we'll do is press new to get a new set of geometry nodes. So the first thing we need to do is find out where all those vectors are, and there's a handy little node that'll help us do that, and it's going to be called the position node. And so as we wait for this to show up, and now I don't know if that's exactly how the position node works, but it seems to work that way and it functions that way for what I need, so I'm happy with it and I'll use it. So we'll use the input and then come down here to position. We'll just drop that right there. We'll zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Now you should also recommend using Wrangler nodes, or Node Wrangler rather. Just about every Blender video out there that does modeling tells you to do that, and so I'll say the same thing. Go to Edit, Preferences. If you click on there and just type in Node, you'll see Node Wrangler. It comes with Blender, so you don't have to go find it anywhere other than here. And just make sure that box is checked. And what that does, it just makes it easier to work with these nodes, dragging and dropping and things like that. So we have our position node that tells us where all these vectors are. And now we want to rotate it. So we can click Add, and then we're going to go down to find a vector function to add rotate. So we go Vector, as this thing waits for the something to do with the screencast keys. It makes this a little slower, but that's okay. It gives you a chance to catch up. Go down to Vector, Rotate, and we'll just put that right next to it. So we'll plug this position into the vector input. So now we have the position of the vectors, and then we're able to rotate it and we want to ultimately rotate this around the x-axis, and it'll be an angle we'll adjust here. Now we need to tell it to apply it to this mesh. So we'll click add, and we'll go geometry, and we'll say set position. And we'll just drop it right in there. Move that over a little bit, scooch that up. Okay, and then we'll take our vector output and into the position there. And then we're facing our x-axis, so this is the axis we want to rotate it on. So let's go down here and say axis angle, x-axis. Now what happens when we just drag this? Voila, look at that. Our eyelids moving up and down. And what did we use? We just used 3 nodes: position, vector rotate, set position. How easy is that? All right, now let's add this to the lower lid. So we have to do pretty much the same thing. We'll go back into the press numpad 3 up here to go to the side view. And then we will move this down just a little bit. Hide this one and bring back the lid bottom and pretty much do the same thing here. Let's go to select our object. And we'll go to edit mode. And like before, we want to press the X-ray so we see all the way through it. And then let's go ahead and front view for just a moment. And then we want to select all the upper eyelid or upper vertices. And so we're going to drag it that away. Press delete vertices. Now I got a couple scraps there hanging in there. So I need to get a little closer. Select those. Delete vertices. There. And let's back off. And then like the top lid, we want to create a vertex group. So plus, let's rename this one. How about lid dot bottom? Okay. Hover over here, press A to select all those vertices and assign them. So now we have all these vertices assigned to the lid bottom group. Okay, let's go back to object mode. Go to our right view there by pressing 3 on the numpad. Now we need to add a new geometry node for this one. But now we can select geometry nodes there before and have the same setup. So let's rename this just so we can know what we're doing in the future and reuse it. So we'll go, let's call this one geo underscore lids. Okay, so now we know that that's that node group. Get rid of our X-ray, and there we go. We can move this one back and forth on the angle. Real easy. So there you have it, an upper lid and an lower lid and a lower lid. So let's combine these back with the eyeball. All right, so I'm going to go front view, and then let's erase some of my annotations there to get them out of the way. And let's bring back our upper lid and our tune eyeball. So we're going to select the lower one, shift select the upper one. Now we can't see the eyeball, so we're going to have to just hit the control select over there. So now we have all 3 selected, and the last one, it's important that the last one be the eyeball. And then we hit control J with our cursor over this working area. Now we have all of those combined, but we've lost our geometry nodes when we did that. But that's okay, because we're going to bring them back by just pressing new, down arrow there, and select our geolids. So there we have it. We have both eyelids attached to that. Now we have a little bit of an issue here. Let's scale that down, because now when I move the angle, both eyelids move because they're sharing the same controls. So that means we need to break up these controls and duplicate them so we have one for each lid. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. And let's select a position, shift select vector rotate, and then shift D to duplicate. Let's just move that down there and move that up a little. So now we have 2 sets of vector rotating. Let's press highlight the step position, shift D to duplicate that. Let's just drag that and drop it right over there. Move that down a little bit. And we'll connect this vector output to this position. So now we have two sets of controls, one for each eyelid. But we need to still tell it which eyelid to use for which controls. So we'll come over here, click Group Input, and if you don't see this menu to the right, you can press just like we did up on top. We can hit the N button to bring that menu up, and it usually defaults to Node on this tab, but we want to go down to the Group tab. And where you see Geometry, hit the plus button, and let's change this input to say vert.group.top. And so we're going to assign a vertice group to this input. Now let's make this from float to boolean. Now if we go to our wrench over here, press it, you'll see that now we have an input in our modifier menu. So just click on that little X there, click in the field next to it, and you'll see our vertex group showing up down here, the lid top. So let's select that. So that means we've now assigned all those vertices in that vertex group to this input. And we'll take this input and connect it to the selection. So now when we move this one, you can see just the top one rotating. And now we just do the same thing for the bottom one, for the bottom lid. So we'll add another group. Let's name this vertex group bottom. All right. And then again, over onto this tool menu on the modifier menu, click the plus, click the field, and select lid bottom. And now we've assigned those vertex groups to this input. We'll drag this all the way across to the selection over there. We can drag that down a little bit. All right. So now when we move this one, we can see the lower eyelid moving. How easy is that? 1, 2, 3 nodes duplicated once, so 6 nodes total to make our nice beautiful eyelid rig. Or not the rig, but the eyelid mechanics. So let's go ahead and apply our materials, and we can see that it's all the eyeball because we don't have a separate material for the eyelids yet. So let's go over to our material button, and then let's click Add and make this one a new material. We'll just click on the base color and drag something over here. I don't know, any color you want, and we'll call this one, let's just name this skin. Okay. Now we need to apply this skin material to just the eyelid vertices and not the eyeball. So we're going to go back into edit mode. Just click somewhere off to the left or right to unselect all those vertices. Then we'll go back to our vertex group, click on lid top, select, and it's selected all those top lid vertices. Select bottom. Now we have all the, oops, I touched it and it all went away. So now we have all those vertices selected, but not the eyeball portion, just the eyelid portion. And then we'll go back to our material, making sure that's still highlighted, the skin is, and then click Assign. And now all those eyelid vertices have the skin color. Let's go back to object mode, and there we have it, our beautiful eyeball, which we can control the eyelids. Now it is kind of a pain to control these by going into the geometry nodes. So let's add some additional controls to use over in this menu here on the modifier panel. So to do that, let's go back to our inputs on the group and hit plus. And let's call this one, how about top lid open. And then we're going to change it from boolean to back to float. Okay. And then let's connect this from here, our group input, down to the angle of the top eyelid. Now we've seen that shows up over here, and we can now control the top eyelid by just dragging on our modifier panel. So let's do the same thing for the bottom. We'll click on plus our group inputs. Let's rename that one to bottom dot lid dot open, and it's already afloat because it basically duplicated the one above, and then we'll drag that one, the input, all the way down to the lower eyelid angle. And again, now we can control it from over here, and this is really where we want to be because we can add keyframes over here, we can right click and add drivers. So this is how we can animate our eyeball, or eyelids rather, by adding a menu panel over here. Now we could also do that from in here by right clicking and creating some drivers, but it's far easier to have it in this tool panel. And then our eyeball, we can also, if we click the simple tune eye, I've added some controls for rotating the eyes around and be able to look up and down. Now we don't have to stick to the to this particular procedural eye. We can really use, make that one 1 point. Oops. I'm playing around, having too much fun playing around with the eyeball, moving it around. Okay. So we don't have to use actually this particular tune eye. This is we can click on that, and I downloaded two, remember? So we can click on this and pick that stylized one, and it works just as well. The key thing here is it needs to be smooth. If you have some say vertice or geometry based pupil which bumps out, a big bump there, I don't think it'll work well. I don't know, I haven't tried it, but I'm pretty certain it won't. And so, but that's not the point here. The point here is to make a tune eye, something flat and wafer, and it slides along nicely without any hassle. Now I use this particular tune eye as an adaptation of the one created by MV Arts, and he has a great little tutorial on YouTube, create a procedural stylized eye shader. And the only thing I did was add some extra controls, so again that I can control the movement of the eye from my menu and add drivers to it. So, and I'm getting kind of wacky again with my eyeballs there. Alright, now the last thing we want to do, because I promised you a flat tune eye, so let's just hide this out of the way. And that's really easy to do. We're just going to press, for now, the 3 button on the numpad, so we get a side view. And we're going to hit Scale Y, flatten that as much as your heart desire. Let's go to the numpad 1 for the front view, and we can finish erasing some of that. And then all we have to do is hit Scale in the Z direction this time. Let's go up, and there you have it. We have a stylized eye that we can use the controls over in the tool to move those eyelids up and down, tracking that flattened tune and style eye just perfectly with both the upper and the lower. And on these particular tune shaders, added some controls, so again we can move those eyes around and up and down. And there you have it. Okay, how about a little bonus session where we make this eye a little more expressive by not just opening and closing the eyelid, but having it tilt as well. I'm going to first start off by going to our Materials tab, and I'm going to switch it back to the simple eye tune. There we go with the little dot. And then I'm going to drag up our bottom panel, select back to the geometry node editor. Now to make this tilt, what we're going to do is just click on that vector rotate, Shift D to duplicate, drag it over, drop it in, and it should make the connection. If not, just make it manually. And now instead of the set this to 0, because that's from when we were playing around with it earlier. Instead of the x-axis here, we want to rotate around the y-axis here. So let's just click on that and make it y-axis. Now we drag the angle. Look at that. Angry, sad. We can have a little more control over the character. Now to add a control to that, into our modifier properties panel, go ahead and click on group, click add, and this one, let's call it top lid angle. How about that? And then we'll want to take the input from the angle and connect it to that top angle control. And now we can see it show up over here, and we can rotate it by just dragging it back and forth or entering a number. And I'll go ahead and, to be consistent, I'll capitalize that A right here. But you can name it however you like. Now let's clean up our nodes a little bit since we're at it, because now we have two vector rotates, but we're not sure which is which just by looking at it unless we stare at the axes. So what we're going to do is click on this first one, and let's go up to the node, and we'll see a entry field here of label. So let's just fill that in with, how about top lid open, and then we'll see it show up right here. So then we know that that's the top lid, and we can do the same thing over there. Click on that label field and say top lid angle. Then down here at the bottom, we can highlight that one, that node, click in the label field, and let's call this one bottom lid open. So now we can just quickly by inspection see what that control is doing. Now if we want to get a little fancier, we can also group these together. I mean, this isn't a big node tree, so it doesn't probably need it, but just to show you how to do it if you like, we can drag across all of those. We select all those three, and then we can hit Control J, and that groups them together in this frame. And then over here on the right hand side, we have that node. We can highlight that frame field on the label, and let's call this top eyelid controls. And if we want, we can click the little color box there and select the color of our choice. Try that out a little bit, move this down, and then we can do the same thing here if we want to be fancy. Grab those two, Control J, click in the frame label field. We'll call this one bottom eyelid controls. Let in spell. There we go. And if we want, we can also give that one a different color. And there we have our nice node control, our eyelid controls made out of the geometry nodes. And over here, in the modifier properties panel, we can tilt our eye, angry, worried, up, down, down. And there you go. I will provide a link below for the project file that includes both the eyelid nodes and the eyeball shaders. Let me know if this was helpful to you and if you liked the video in the comments below. And please check out my greeting cards by searching Dad's Castle Greeting Cards on Amazon or Etsy. And have a great day.